If you're a fan of this channel, you have probably seen that I like toys. There's a bunch in the background and I use them from time to time. So this slightly creepy little critter I picked up in a thrift store. And I had no idea what to do with it. I had no clear instructions, and eventually I figured out that it was as simple as this. Who would have known? Ugh. I don't know. I've got a fascination with things that are sort of cute, but kind of creepy. What can I say? Oh, just gonna keep talking to us. Hi, and welcome. This is Dr. Brett Pearce, child psychologist, and this is the second part of my series known as, well, it's still talking, as the Basics of Managing Kids' Behavior, Part 2. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of clear instructions. Because even when the task is simple, such as booping the nose on a, I don't even know what this is, if you don't know and someone doesn't tell you, it can still be very mysterious and can make things a lot more frustrating than they need to be. But before we dive into that, I would just like to thank all of you for subscribing. The channel is growing very steadily. We recently reached our 40th subscriber, which may not seem like a big deal to most, but it is to me. Each and every one of you is very much appreciated. If you enjoy this content and you're a returning viewer of mine, please do feel free to subscribe by clicking a button down there below. It really means a lot to me and helps out the channel. And I'd also like to wish everyone a happy Halloween season. And I'm celebrating, the countdown to Halloween with some tea from this mug here. All right, without further ado, let's get into giving instructions when we are trying to help kids with their behaviors. So this subject might seem almost frustratingly simple, like, really? What kind of full video do you need to do on giving instructions? Don't you just tell the kid what you want? And the answer is, well, yeah, but you'd be surprised. And there are two things that we run into trouble with very frequently when we're trying to give kids instructions, like telling them what we want them to do. The first thing, and they happen to rhyme, which I like, the first thing is that we need to make sure that our instructions to kids are concise. And the second thing we need to do is we need to make sure that our instructions to kids are precise. So short and simple and specific, basically, is the idea. So let's talk about the first one, all right? So in the first video, just as a reminder in this series, we talked about expectations, what expectations are good and reasonable for the kid when it comes to behavior. And we also in that video talked about addressing needs, like, well, first and foremost, let's make sure that the kid's needs, like being hungry, angry, lonely, things like that, are addressed first. So now that we've established that those things are addressed and we've set some good expectations, like, say, we want the kiddo to pick up their toys when they're done playing. Pretty reasonable expectation for most kids of a lot of ages. So let's talk about how first we need to be concise with our instructions. So obviously, the younger the kid is, the more it really matters that we're short and simple with our instructions. But even with older kids or with smart kids or kids who are good with language, if there's a lot of frustration involved, if it's kind of a recurring pattern where we're struggling a lot with a particular kind of behavior, then being concise is also very, very good, because it helps to just sort of reduce all that. So by concise, I mean, short, simple, not a lot of complex language. So let's maybe just start with a few examples, and you can kind of tell me which one you think is more concise. So let's say that we've got 6-year-old Bobby, and we are trying to help him pick up his toys after they're done. And let's say that, Bobby's got sort of 3 different kinds of toys he was playing with. And we say, okay, Bobby, it is time for you to pick up all these toys, get all these toys picked up and put away, so then we can go to the park. It'll be really fun, and then once we're done with the park, we'll have some awesome dinner, and it'll be great. So pick up your toys. So that's the first possibility. Second possibility might be something like this. Okay, Bobby, it's cleanup time, so I want you to put the Legos in your Lego bucket first. So that one's probably pretty obvious. So actually the one that the obvious one, the second one, which is a lot more concise, is also pretty precise too, but we'll get into that. It's just really important that we make sure we're using simple language, and we're kind of going way down. And with even younger kids, as particularly kids who are having language difficulties, we might even figure out kind of little tricks to avoid a lot of clauses and extra words. Like if we wanted kiddos eating lunch and having a hard time focusing on eating, and they've got like apples and cheese and a piece of bread and butter, we might say something like, take bread bites. Uh-oh, looks like we've got a cattail cameo. It's a special day. Hey, looks like she approves of the subject matter, which is always good. So, like I was saying earlier, I want you to take bread bites. So rather than saying, oh, hey, you need to take 5 more pieces of bread and then 10 more pieces of cheese and all that, where we're kind of throwing a lot of language at the kid, we want to just think like, okay, how can I you just make this simple and clear? All right. So that's the first thing. Be concise with your instructions. It's amazing how much of a difference that can really make. And, I'm never long-winded. I never have to worry about being concise ever. I promise. No. Those of you who know me are like, yeah, sure. So the second thing we need to think about when we're giving instructions to kids is we need to think about being precise. All right. So concise is about being short. Precise is about being specific and clear. All right. So you can notice earlier with that example about, we'll wait for the cat to pass. Hi, Mecca. Yes. I could give Mecca an instruction, jump off. So with the example of take bread bites, so that is very precise. And you could say something like, take 5 more bites of bread, or take a few more bites of bread. And that might not be quite as concise, but it's still very precise, because sometimes it's really remarkable how with instructions we tend to express sort of an overall goal or a sentiment or something like that, which is not wrong. It's just that for many kids, it's really hard to know what to do with that, or they might have some idea but get too overwhelmed to be able to actually kind of carry it forward with specific action. So in the earlier thing we were thinking about is having a kid maybe pick up toys. If we just say clean up toys, for many kids, if there's a lot of toys around, it's just too overwhelming. Like they don't really know what to do. And it's surprising often how many kids are pretty meticulous. Like they really want things to go in a particular way. They want things to go by categories or something. And some kids really aren't. They could just, sort of toss it all into one bucket and be good. The point is, with Bobby, who has to pick up 3 different kinds of toys, it can often be really good to pick a specific starting point. I mean, there doesn't have to be any magic to it. It's just sometimes picking anything as the first step and then giving that precise instruction to Bobby. Bobby, put the Legos into the bucket, rather than just saying, Bobby, clean up, or Bobby, pick up toys, can really, really, really be helpful, because then it removes a bunch of the other stuff that could be getting in the way. Like, I don't know which one to choose, I'm overwhelmed, or I don't even really know how to kind of like break this project down into pieces. And so the more a kid is struggling with something like, say, picking things up, the more precise we have to be. And parents are often amazed when it's cleanup time in my office, how often it goes pretty well. And that's because I'm usually really specific, particularly with the younger kids. Like, hey, put the food toys in the bucket that has the food toys. I'm specific. So when we're providing instructions to kids, just like with this, we want to make sure we know exactly what it is we need to do, because this whole thing here could be very mysterious and kind of foreign looking, like I don't even know what it is, but If someone just said, oh, you boop the nose, and it activates and starts to babble at you in a creepy way. But the point is, providing instructions is really, really important. And we could have everything else just down pat with helping kids. But if we're not providing clear instructions, then it can really throw an unnecessary wrench into the process. And in providing clear instructions to kids, we want to first and foremost be concise, which is to say short, simple language. Stay focused on the issue. Don't try to go off on a bunch of other tangents. Just stay focused on what you're trying to say and keep it simple. And the second thing we want to do is to be precise, which is to say we are specific and clear. And a good rule of thumb is just think to yourself, what would step one of this, of what I want the kid to do be? Well, if I want the kid to pick up toys, then how about they start with the Legos? Put the Legos in the bucket. So thank you for listening. This is part 2 in my series called The Basics of Managing Kids' Behaviors. We've talked about providing good instructions. This is Dr. Brett Pearce, child psychologist. If you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe, give me a like, and smash that bell notification so you can be notified when my next video goes live. For now, this is Dr. Brett Pearce signing off and wishing you all a good, happy Halloween season, because it's just in a few days.